post this. So welcome to the December issue of session of the Smart Table Virtual User Group. I'm Heather Lamb, your host, and today we have some cool things that I'm going to talk about. And I hope that you are finding some really cool new ways to possibly use your table and different, just how is it being used in your classroom. Hopefully you're finding that you're having some exciting learning opportunities and such. So let's find out how we can build with the Smart Table Toolkit and more about the Smart Table. So I changed my picture up a little bit so that you could see what my other one was a little dated, but I just wanted to remind those of you that haven't joined the session in a while, I am posting the resources, and I've got this referenced on another page. I'm working on updating my website a little bit, so it's a little dated, but I am posting the sessions. They'll stay live on through the GoToWebinar channel for about a week or so, but I am pulling them straight over to YouTube, so they are available on YouTube for downloading and for viewing later. So that's a really nice feature of YouTube. I was able to email them, and I'm in good standing, so I'm able to post those longer sessions there. If you do have a question, if it's a technical question, probably the best person to answer those is technical support, but if there's a question about something that I'm sharing on the virtual user group or my website or some general building questions, let me know. It's still a learning process, and there's still really cool things that can be done with the table toolkit. I recently did a session with some 4th and 5th graders, or the teachers, and had to kind of rethink the ideas, but it turned out really well, and I've got actually something I'm going to share, because the idea is that I just took something that I found and repurposed it. So I'm going to show that today as well. How can you participate? Well, I tried, and I'm doing this by myself now, so it's kind of tricky trying to do multiple things. So I'm just going to stick with the GoToWebinar format, but if you have a question, and I'm going to throw some questions out there. So if you have a question, please use the question panel if your box is on the right, but there's a question panel in there. There's not a real good chat feature in this program, but if you have a question, I will try to announce it to everyone, because you may all have the same question. There is a raise your hand option, so definitely I'll watch that. If you have a question and you've got a headset, or even if you've just got your computer mic, if you want to ask the question orally for everyone, please do so. And like I said, the webinar is re-recorded. You will get a follow-up email. Those of you that are going to watch it later, you'll get a link to watch it, but it'll only stay live. I'm pulling them back down because they're so large. So I'm pulling them off of the GoToWebinar and hosting them in my YouTube channel. So revisit those. It's a great way to possibly, the whole flipped learning environment, and if you've got teachers that you're doing some Smart Table, you might have them watch part of a session or something that you create, and then come, and they'll be better prepared to really what can they experience with the Smart Table. So why do I do this? Why do we get together? And why are we here? Well, we are stronger as a group. So if you've noticed recently on the activity packs, there's over 1,500 of them, and many of them are created by publishers, but many of them are teachers just as yourself, or tech people, or instructional tech people, but somebody that has a vested interest in the Smart Table and the learning opportunities. So we collectively, become a bigger, broader audience, and we learn from each other. So we're building skills. This is a lot of times the time when I kind of push the limits of what I can do, and then turn around and share what I've done with you. We want to share best practices, and then, like I said, networking with other table users. So there's people from all over the United States and Canada that join this. In fact, I had some people beyond the U.S. and Canada join, so it's really interesting and really exciting to see the reach of this. So what are we going to talk about today? I've done my introductions. I've talked about the purpose. We're going to just have a little bit of a review, just to remind you about the resources. Nothing has changed, but just going to the website and seeing what's out there and repurposing it for yours. I've gotten a lot of questions recently about the third-party applications, so I decided that I would kind of focus on them a lot and using them, because those are not the default applications that come already part of the table activity toolkit. And then the other thing is, you can see at the bottom, because I want to encourage you to really strengthen your knowledge, I'm going to start taking these. We had a session in October, and we skipped November primarily because of the Thanksgiving holidays, and then we skipped to December. So I'm going to start with that model, and because we're going to go into the holidays, I don't know how much building and things that you're going to be doing. So I want to give you some time to really kind of absorb what we've talked about today. So our next session will be February 12th, and I'll create a make it and take it session. So if you're struggling with some of the things that we did today, this will be your opportunity to really kind of hone those skills, because a make it and take it that's really the idea is I'll build some pieces and we'll put them together during this session. So a virtual make it and take it. So you'll go away with something that you could turn around and try with your students or try with a teacher the next day possibly. So be watching for that. So practice, 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 and use the toolkit between now and February 12th and come back with some questions, and we'll do that make it and take it. So just as a reminder, I do have my website, my digital dashboard, and if you go up to the Smart Table link, then you will find those resources that are up there, the YouTube link. And then I'm working on, I have one computer. I do my website on a Mac, and it's not a Mac that I usually travel with. So I do that website, so I'm going to work on updating and adding those resources from some of the past sessions so that you'll not only see the recording, but you can go in those resources. I also just want to remind you that you can go to our training resource site, and I have this link, so I will be posting this file as well. So if you don't know where that is, if you look down at the bottom and go to the resources, and you can find some PDFs. There's also some free sessions, so utilize those sessions to help you better create and have better and cool learning opportunities for your students. Don't forget, this has also been a really, really big question, so let me get out of the screen here. I have a lot of people that are just now, for whatever reason, are just now beginning to really dabble into downloading from the activity packs from the Exchange. But what's happening is they are downloading everything, notebook files, images, everything. So don't forget that, I pulled up this on Exchange. So don't forget, if you're a teacher or someone that works with teachers, or whatever your role is, when you do, let me go back, and first of all, I would make sure everyone has a login. But if I were just for grins, so since this is December and holidays, I'm just going to type general search for December. And, people get really, really excited, because then they look and go, oh my gosh, there are 428 items. And this has been a heavy question recently, because they're looking for some very specific items. But then I say, well, let's talk about that. Let's refine our search. So I'm going to look for something pretty low level. So I'm going to change the grade search. And if I even do that, it's not refining my search down. It's kind of like in Google and going to the advanced search. But then here's the most important piece right here. So let me see if I can use my floating tools over here. Yeah, my floating tools are just not happy right now. So, but over here you'll see narrow results down at the bottom. And this is one of the most important pieces when you're helping. If you're either the teacher or working with teachers, or if you're a trainer, whatever your role is, people get really excited, because what's happening is people are emailing me and saying, I downloaded this, and I said, well, tell me, do you have the link to what you downloaded? And it's a Smart Notebook lesson 9 times out of 10. And when they put it on the table won't read notebook files as a standalone, but you can put them inside of the toolkit. So as a standalone by itself, the table is not going to read it. And how I explained it is, the other day someone sent me something to look at as kid pics, and that's a program. I don't have kid pics on my computer, so I couldn't see it. So it's the same thing on the table. It reads the notebook files, but they have to be part of something. So if you don't have the notebook software it on the table, well, it's actually part of the default application. So it's there, but it has to go through the toolkit. And we'll talk a little more about that. But here's the most important part right here that I'm looking for. So there's a lot of things that I can use and build within my toolkit, but if I'm just looking to mark table activity packs that are already pre-created, this is what I want to notice. And this is what, this last week I was in a district and I said, okay, because somebody found something. I said, oop, but is it? And she's like, oh no, it's a notebook file. I know what to do with it. But see where it says Smart Table Activity Pack? So you've got these activity packs. So here's month of the year. So there's 3 of them that I can use without even having to customize. So if that's where you're at right now, is borrowing, I'm a huge believer of borrowing, then borrow these. But as you start looking and saying, oh, well, my kids are not ready for that, so maybe I'll open it up and download it and delete something out of there or change it. So that's where some of the skill sets that we've been building, if you've joined us in the past, that's where we're at. So I just really wanted to stress that, to make sure, because now with Notebook being available, if you are not a Smartboard user, so you don't necessarily have Smart Notebook on your computer, you do have a license for that table that you can, when you register your table, you will receive the activation code. So that's how, so if you don't have a Smartboard, you still have the licensing rights to be able to use it to create. So that's the big kind of caveat. It's to create activity packs, or to download and view and put them inside of your activity pack, your Smart Table Activity Pack. All right, so moving on, what are we really focusing on? So some other questions. I try to drive my agenda based on the questions that I get, or the feedback. So one of the things that people have struggles with also is the Smart Table of third-party applications. So if you notice, if you're looking at my screen, you notice that this is a screenshot from the applications from my computer. So we've got 4, and they're called third-party applications. So the default applications inside of the toolkit, and I'll open up the toolkit really fast, but mine already has them. So the default applications are Edition, Edition Plus, Hot Spaces, Hotspots, Media, Multiple Choice. Let's see, catch up with you. Oh, here we go. Narrow it down to third party. Notebook, Smart Notebook, Paint, Puzzles. Puzzles, so it is a default application, but there's no customizing, so it's the tangrams. But it's a great tool for students. And then those are all the default applications. So if you look at my list down here, you notice that I have Image Reveal, I have Narrow It Down, I have Story Stage, and I have Super Wide. So those are what we call third-party applications. So those are these third-party applications. So basically, I've gone through and I've made some pages of all the steps that you're going to, so we're going to kind of go through it so you can wrap your head around the pieces. But the basic premise, I'll just say this, the basic premise is you're going to go to the download page. So if I go back to Smart Exchange, you can get this for in a lot of different places, but the easiest place is if I go back to the home page and I go to File Type in my tabs. I have Subject Grade and I have File Type. Over here I've got Smart Table Activity Packs, but if I look to the right, there's my Smart Table Application. So if I click and select that link, it's going to take me to those downloads. You can get to this from our downloads page, but this is really the easiest. Now you'll notice as I scroll through this, I've got Story Stage, and if I look at the bottom, if you're a Mac user, I have Story Stage for Mac. So be cautious which one you're downloading. So what you're going to be doing, and this is the key, this is the piece that always kind of, I think, the directions are on our download page, but I want to explain them so that when you go back and read them, it'll probably make more sense. You're going to download it, but it's for a Mac, it's a DMG file. For a Windows, it's an EXE. So you have to extract it, and it tells you that. So you're going to extract it. When you extract these pieces, when you extract these third-party apps, let me go back to my notebook page, you will get this icon right here. So do you see that icon right here? Let me use this. So this is, you'll get this little green, and that's what it looks like, the big one right there. So you'll get this icon. So this is the most important piece of the whole thing. When you download Narrow It Down, you actually get an activity pack that I built. That's a trial. So this is Narrow It Down, and the EN stands for English. When you download Narrow It Down and you extract it, there's activity packs in multiple languages. So you really just need the EN one, unless you're supporting other languages, and that you might find that of benefit for you. But you're really, to add the application, it's this icon that you want. So you'll notice maybe you did, that I didn't see Super Y in that list, and it's not available from the Smart Exchange, but I've got the link to where you can go to get that, and a little more about Super Y. And I've downloaded some videos so you can see what the applications are all about. So we know that we need that application, so we need that icon. So the steps are basically, you'll take, and I've had some people that have lost their USB, the bracelets. It's okay. Any USB will work. So don't fret. Don't have your teachers fret. Any USB. I will say that I've discovered that the USBs that the table doesn't seem to like is the USBs that have that they slide, the casing slides up and back. It's almost like you can't get it into the table far enough. So it doesn't seem to like those as much. Now, not all of them, but most of the ones that I've come across. In fact, last week we came across one, so we just switched it over to a different one, and it worked fine. So just for the table, know that if you're using one of, I don't know how to explain it, but the kind that has the top that so it doesn't have a top that's removable, it just slides in and slides out. The casing that hides the connector part. That's some pretty high-tech words there. So those are some hints. So you'll put this. You've got two places that you're going to be using this icon. You're going to be adding it to the toolkit, and you're going to be adding it to your table. So let's go to the next page and let's talk about this. So when I talk about the table, here's kind of the steps. So if you're looking at my screen and you see that the first step is I'm going to take, and actually that when I put the bracelet in, I get the teacher menu, and I'm going to choose the activities. So I'm going to choose it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down the page. So at the top it says activities, and when I scroll down the page, I'm going to see applications. Now remember that you have to be on the USB because you placed all those programs on your USB. So they're not on the table. So what we're actually doing is we're syncing versus going into the table and adding the program. We're adding it kind of a plug and play model. So when I select Narrow It Down, it'll say, what do you want to do? I open it, and then it syncs the program to the table. And I'm going to repeat that step for each one of those applications. So I can't select and click and do all 3 or 4 at the same time. So I'm going to plug in my USB, choose the activities, and then scroll down to find Narrow It Down, click Open. And then same thing, choose the application, sorry. Choose the application, not the activity. Choose the application, select Narrow It Down, then I'll select Image Reveal, then I'll select Story Stage, and then I'll, if I have Super Y, I'm going to hold that one because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Super Y. But if for some reason you find, and you might have come across this, if you find an activity that you've downloaded and your table doesn't yet have the third-party applications on it, it'll still open. It just gives you a message, and I've noted that. So I'm going to be posting this file, but it's noted at the bottom. It'll prompt you with a message, but still load the activity pack minus that one application, or maybe they have 3 of those third-party apps, whatever, but it'll still load. So that's getting that activity, those applications to the table. So then how do you get those applications to the toolkit? So it's kind of the same process, still going to use the little icon, but this time, so what you do is you don't, and I put this open or put this on my list with the toolkit closed. So don't open the toolkit. So with the toolkit closed, but you have the toolkit loaded on your computer, with it closed, you're going to double click or select this icon. When you do that, the toolkit is going to open with that third-party application in your options to choose. So that's how I did that for all of these applications. I double-clicked on it, it opened up the toolkit, and I closed it. I opened up, I double-clicked on the next third-party app, whether it's narrowed down image or real story stage, and it opened up in my toolkit. So here's, if you look at my list, that's how I got them there. So I double-clicked, I didn't have the toolkit open, I double-clicked on that icon for narrow it down, and then it adds it. I only have to do this step and the syncing one time. Once it's on the table or once it's in the toolkit, it's there unless you have to say remove it or uninstall for some reason. It's going to stay there, so you don't have to repeat that step every time you want to use those applications. So hopefully, I'm just going to throw a question out there. So let me put this out there, and just I want you in your question box. I'm not even going to say it, but how many of you, type in your question box, how many of you have downloaded and added the third-party applications to your table or to your to the toolkit? So in your chat, in your question box, go ahead and just say whatever, yes, I've done it, no, I haven't. So, and then I can see those questions. Let's see. So is anyone? So you just need to type in there. So if you type, I think I should be able to see them. Oh, let's see. Jessica's done it. Let's see who else. Yes, it's just Jessica has done it so far. Cool. We might have to get your feedback on that. All right. Let's see what Leah says. Oh, what was the I asked if you have downloaded those third-party applications. If you've downloaded the third-party apps to your either the toolkit or to the table. So just was curious how many of you have done that. Because it's not a hard process, but it seems to be something that hangs people up. So that's what I was just kind of curious about. All right. Let's see. Okay, so Diane, the Super Y didn't work, so I'm going to talk about Super Y just a little bit and what I would do, some recommendations based on that. So we'll talk about Super Y a little bit, so what I've discovered. So those are some steps on the third-party app. So if you haven't done it yet, you might try it based on those steps, and if I can help you, you can email me. So let's talk just a little bit about those third-party apps. Story Stage. So I put on there, what can you do, some things that people don't know. So Story Stage was developed by Scholastic. So Story Stage is actually a program that runs on a computer. So some of the questions that I do get are, there's some other stories that are on my computer. I have had somebody that has the program and wants to know, there's Goldilocks and the Three Bears that we have for the table, but then there's some other fairy tales. So with the table, the only story that is available for downloading is Story Stage with Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So there's not any way right now, I don't know if there's plans in the works to adapt it or to add additional stories, but right now it's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So they put the little pictures of the bears. So what can you do with this? So it is, if I were to look at this in my toolkit, so if I added Story Stage 2 there, and I come up here, it says this third-party application is not customizable. So what that means basically is that you can't customize it. It could be one of my apps. So down here, it's one of my applications, but I can't customize it. So it's when I put it on the table. So what can you do with it on the table? You can actually plug in a headphone, like I'm using a headphone with a microphone, and you can plug that into your USB drives on your table. You might have to set something up so it acknowledges that your headphone, but there's actually a way that the students can talk and record their voices during story stage. So you might want to explore that. So that's neat. There's a recording feature, there's a playback feature so that you can record and save your recordings. So think of it as the idea behind story stage is the kids are creating their own story. They can watch Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but then they can create their own story. So they can create it and save it for others to watch it. And you can see the picture that I put up there. There's a witch, there's all kinds of backgrounds. They can make it snow in the kitchen. The characters move. So if you notice, it's kind of tricky to see. So let me see if I can stretch this picture without it getting too distorted. Notice that the little circles on their body, like here's a circle on her face, on the shoulders. There's some circles on, I believe, when you turn them around. Actually, there's a circle right here. I think there's circles on the feet, and then there's a circle on this one's belly. So with those circles, you can actually add the action. So this Goldilocks can sit down in a chair. You can move her to the right, and she moves across. So those are the actions that you can have. So think of it as having maybe a storyboard, and your students are going to create their story, and then they're going to act it out. That might be something that you might have them do. So it's not editable it's not editable inside of the toolkit, but it's editable in some respects on the table itself. You'll notice what I did is I have a link to a YouTube video, so if you want to see, the videos don't really come through so well in GoToWebinar, but as I said, I'll post this so you can go and you can link and you can watch the actions and some things that you can do with StoryStage. So you can add it to your activity pack, the list. You can have up to 8 applications. Next one is called Image Reveal. So this is a third-party app, and I just took some screenshots of what happens. So on the table, you'll notice that, and I've got a link to if I click on this link, it actually takes you to, I believe, the download page, and it also has a video of the actions. So it's kind of slow and loading. So this right here is a video right here, so you can watch it, but there's your download right there. So what can you do in Image Reveal? You can actually, it's where you can ask questions, and then there's pictures, and based on the pictures, if you look at this, it's kind of like a memory game, except if you select and you get the right answer, so here's your answer choices, these will move away, and when you're done, they'll start revealing a picture behind it. So it's actually kind of a 2-level sort of a game. So, and you can see it's pretty easy to make. So this is a screenshot of using it. So it's very detailed. You can add the hidden picture that says to send picture, click on the image below and click on the labeled. It says to select a hidden image, click on the image below and click the buttons. And so you just follow it and tell the steps. And so they're really easy to do and to use. So that's called Image Reveal, and not a hard program to create. But you have a background, and then the kids have questions. You'll notice that, I can move this over a little bit, it's down on the corner. Sometimes if you have math problems, there's a little notepad that you can actually work your problems out. Oh, here's a little picture of it right there in the corner. So if you notice in that corner, there's a little notepad right here that the kids can use and do some digital ink work. So that's kind of neat, and that's in Image Reveal. Narrow it down. So I actually have an activity pack that I created, and narrow it down. The students work together to solve ask yes/no questions basically, and they're really trying to see whether or not they are. So they're trying to ask the good yes/no questions about the other students' image that they chose. Gosh, that was tricky to get out. So I also included a video here, and I'm going to show you how I've added this. So here's narrow it down. Here is the narrow it down application. So not hard, probably one of the easiest applications to create. So when we start with these applications, all of them that are creation type of applications, you just follow the steps. You go to step 1, you create the activity. Step 2 is create the background, and step 3 is to create the cards. I would caution you in this particular application to not use anything really busy, because people start looking at the cards and looking at the background. It's almost like a layer, as I've said before. So I just left this as green. If you start putting too much busyness, then the kids are going to get kind of lost in what you're doing. So let me move this over here. Basically, these are cards, and it says, what do you want to do? Create the cards. So I have come over here, and here's my create the card image. So I don't have any more cards, so if I click on this one and I go to the gallery, it's just going to replace it. So down at the bottom, if I go to add new, I can add, there's a new card here. So depending on how many cards your kids can really work with, the lower grades you might only have a few cards, but the upper grades you might have 10 or 12 or 15 cards. So when you're on the web, you have access to the gallery automatically. If you don't want to use gallery pictures, maybe you want to use your own kids' pictures when they're all bundled up. So this one, I laughed because when I was making this, it's I don't know how hot it is, 75 degrees or something in December. Yesterday, I think we broke a record this weekend. It was 84, that's degrees Fahrenheit, so kind of crazy. But, if I wanted to, I could take kids' pictures and put them in here and have even yes/no games based on them, because it's really based on the Guess Who game. So if I come over here and if I do snow up here, since I'm kind of the theme is flurry fun, so I might have this house that has snow on the roof. Now remember that you can take and you can't resize the image, but you can crop the image. So maybe I only want the roof on the house because it's got the snow there. So I can resize it that way. And I could even add text to it. So I could have roof with snow. Whoops, I can only have a certain number of text, number of text in that box. So roof with snow was too long. So I'm just going to put roof. Now here's also the cool thing is if you need some extra verbal cues, you can click and there's some options. So you can have the table read the text aloud so that it would say roof. You can have the table spell out the text in R-O-O-F, or if your students need to hear your voice, you can do two things. You can import your audio. If you've already got some audio cues recorded, you might import from a folder, but if you just want to record it quickly, you can click on that little microphone and you could record your own voice and attach it so that when the students press and play roof, it's going to say roof or whatever the option that you chose. So if I want, I can say no. And these are with all the objects that I do. I can have it read. Now remember, the table is going to read for you. So it might be if you have some bigger words that you might get a little kind of distorted. But that's a good option for you as well. Now I'm going to preview this. I do have in my notebook file, I kind of go through the steps of narrow it down a little bit. so that you can see. So I've got, and there's some, actually I didn't put the steps there. I'm going to go through it. But there are some things that I created, and they're on my, I believe, that's why I'm updating it. They're on my website. Let me preview it. Here we go. Whoops, I already had it. There. So here's my snow days. So this is what you would see on the table right here. So the actions are the wheels, or whoever has the red, you see that, oh, I'm pointing at my computer. Whoever has the red box, that's the person that's it. They're the selector. So they're going to get to choose. And if I put this into full screen, this is really what it's going to look like on the table. So see how I have roof right there, and if I press on that on the table, it's going to say, if I had recorded my voice, it will say roof. So think about your learners. You know, do you need them to, need those audio cues? You know, what's your objective? What do you want them to get out of this? So then you notice that the other little guys right here have their eyes closed. You'll have to figure out for your own kids, will they close their eyes or will they peek? So you might have to have them turn around. But let me drag over a card and kind of show you the process. So it says ask a question. And if I forget, I can turn this over and peek again, so I might have to tell my friends to turn around. So notice now it's this person's turn. So the idea is to ask yes or no questions. So if I said, I don't want to say does it have, I'll say does it have blue in the picture? So I'm going to take out and I say yes. So then I'm going to get rid of all the things. And this is where people, they just want to, like, I ask the question, but you know what? I can pull something out. You can pull something out. And I'm looking, and everything else has blue in some capacity. So now, instead of continuing on, this is where I want to start narrowing it down. So this was the sled was what I drug in. So I don't have to really agree to that because I already said, hey, that's it. But I need to agree to this picture right here. And it has a check mark. So I'm going to say, yep, I agree. It doesn't have blue in it, so I pulled it out. So, and I'm the opposite here. This side, this was the one I took and brought in, but this was the other one. So you could maybe have 4 or 5 of these. Instead of just pulling these, continuing to pull these over, I'm going to click on the trash can, and I'm going to throw those away. So now I'm narrowing it down even further. And you'll notice over here the stars correspond to how many cards are out there. So I've asked one good question. And I can continue that until now it's my turn over here. And if I say, does it have red in it? And I say yes. Or is it, does it have a hat on it? So does it have a hat? So I say yes. Then I'm going to pull off all the no's. And you see, and if I had one over here, I would do that too. So now I'm going to do that again. And I have to agree. Now my trash can turns green, and I throw it out. Now for some reason I pulled out the wrong thing. It's going to kick out everything back out. So it's not just going to kick out the wrong one, it's going to kick everything out, and you have to re-ask the questions. So now I'm going to say, is it a snowman? And you say, or does he have a carrot nose? You say yes. Well, I know that. I can narrow this down and click my can. Excellent questions. That, these early stages of creating, that might be the one that you might want to tackle or try. So it's a very, very easy application to use and to create. Teachers have told me that their kids really like that one. So I don't see any questions. I don't see any questions from anyone. So hopefully, yeah, I don't see any questions. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer them. But I tried to go through because that process, but I also will put, when I post this, I have a, ooh, I don't know that well, here it is. It shows you. So I'm not going to play that because it is pretty tricky, and it kind of makes the computer run really slow when I'm on this GoToWebinar. So I'm going to skip that. so that you don't hear me kind of crumbly along. So let's move in. So Diane, this is what you're probably thinking about, Super Y. So Super Y is, you notice that it is in my, when I go to my home, it is in my home section, my applications. And so here's what I have learned about Super Y. It is a really robust activity pack on its own. So there's a couple of things that I have found out about it. So what number one is, I would probably not add any more activity or applications when I'm going to use Super Y. So notice I'm going to get rid of these. Or I could have just probably done and say, nope, I don't want to save. So I'm going to open this up and just start from fresh and only include Super Y. Nothing else. And when I click on this, it says, what do you want to do? Well, I'm going to customize it. And this is actually going to take me out a look, but it's actually talking to each other. So when I come here, this is what is available in Super Y. There's Alpha's Pig Pop, Number Pop, Princess Presto's Crown Creator, Wonder Bread's Let's Bake a Cake, Super Y's Super Muse Maker, and Super Y's Ready Set Pinata. My kids are older, but from what I understand, this is a PBS. PBS has put this out. There's a TV show, and there's all kinds of stuff about Super Y. So kids know Super Y. So when you go down and you scroll down, you've got some choices. What do you want to do? This might be where you set your difficulty level. So you can't scaffold once you get to the table, but maybe you say this is Super Y for Monday, this is Super Y for this day. And then you come back and say, okay, we've used it in the easy level. Now I'm going to keep the easy one, but I'm going to make a new activity pack and change it to medium and just rename it. So you see that it goes up. It's really great ages. It goes up to specified numbers up to 15. So for a really pre-K kind of level of student, so you can see, and I do the same thing all the way through. It tells me the skills taught, so the patterns that are there. It's how to, let's bake a cake, and then skills taught, number additions. So you can see then there's no, so this one has no skills or no customization. Then you must save it. When you save it, that's when after you save it, whoops, I want to save those settings, sorry. Once you save it, so let me go back and save it, then that's actually saving with the toolkit. So let me just click save. So it says close the window, so now I can close the window. And those have been saved. When I open up this application, this will have those settings changed. So a couple of things that I would recommend is using Super Y by itself. The other thing is with Windows 7, sometimes what will happen is when you download it, it will download it, and this is a Windows 7 thing, it'll download with the all the parts extracted. So you have to rename it, but you have to rename it as a Smart Table Activity Pack. So I think it's a dot table application. So, or dot table activity pack is what I believe it is. So let me just see what it is for sure, because I just drew a blank. So let me go to my folder down here, and I can tell you. It is, it's a table toolkit file. So if I open it, I'm going to come back to that when I open it up and I'll show you. So I just drew a major blank. So I'm going to come back to that. I think it's a dot table file. All right. So let's see. All right, so those are the two biggie things that when you use Super Y. Diane, did that answer your question, or did you have some other issues that you might have had? Don't know if so. Just if you have some other issues, that's the only things that I know that have. Let's see. I've got some questions in here now, so let's see. The Super Y was the only available on PBS, right? Yeah. Why would you not include the other? So that's a great question, Jessica. I wouldn't include the other applications. You can try it out. I wouldn't include it only because it seems to, sometimes people put too many applications and it seems to kind of slow up what's happening. So for no other reason than it. Diane said the icon to open it will not let me open it. Oh. All right, so maybe we can take that offline, Diane, and I'll see what's up, because I've used it on my table multiple times and it's worked. So yeah, let's take that offline. And so Jessica, that's why, I mean, I would probably, it's kind of like, I would use some of the easier ones just because it seems people were adding, I think it wasn't really the number of applications, it was the number of activities in the application. So if you're, when you think about the table, you think about how long are your kids going to be at the table, and I had some people that were thinking, oh, I'll put my entire lesson notebook file in, and the notebook file happened to have 30 pages. Well, I said, well, I would rethink that, because your 30 pages, when I build lessons in Notebook, usually I say when you're teaching, a typical page you might spend about a minute if it's a content page or you're developing a concept. So that's like 30 minutes. And I don't know about you, but I think my kids would get restless after 30 minutes of doing kind of the same thing. So sure, they can go in and out, but that's really what I would. So just try it. Try it out and see. That was primarily feedback from some people that had used it. It may work perfectly now. So with the multiple applications, I think it just depends on what you're doing with it. So that was just some feedback. I have used it and put it inside of an activity pack with no problems. But when I did my applications, I only had 2 or 3 activities inside of each application. So I didn't have a really heavy load of activities. I hope that explained that. So I would try it, and then see what happens. So it's worth a try so that you can have multiple things. But Super Y is robust as it is, but just maybe there's something else you want to include with it. So the PBS, it's not available. So Super Y isn't available. You have to go to this, and I'm going to post this link also. So like I said, I'm redoing, and I apologize. I just, for some of you probably know this, I'm back in school, and my nights are a lot of times that I used to spend doing some of this stuff, but my nights are writing papers and doing statistics now. So so I'm doing a lot of this backtracking. But it's pbs.org /parents/Super Y. That's a long address. I am going to post it on my website. So that will probably help you to see it. I did include a video as well, so you can come back and link to that. All right. Just got a few more minutes. So any other questions? Hopefully, Jessica, that answered your question. I would definitely, it is an awesome, awesome application. So definitely use it, and just use it, and then that if it starts to run a little sluggish, then maybe revamp your activity pack, and that's how I would do it. I always want to push the limits of everything, so I would probably do it myself and then pull back if I had to. So one of the things that I wanted to remind people, because of the fact that not everyone has Smart Notebook, nor sometimes people have it, but they haven't used it. So I want to kind of give you some ideas to better utilize maybe some how do you create some backgrounds. So so what I've done is, one of the things that you can use to create backgrounds is PowerPoint, and pretty much everybody has PowerPoint, or if you're on a Mac, you might have Keynote. But so I'm going to go into my folder that I have, and I'll post these resources. But I created a folder, and I have a couple of things that I've done, and And so one of them, I created this little patchwork background for the table. So what I did was thinking, okay, maybe I want a hot spaces activity. So when you build your table activity packs, your background is a layer that doesn't move, and you have to layer the objects that move on top of it. So it seems like I said, a lot of people are familiar with PowerPoint. So I'm going to open this, and while that's opening, well, here we go. Let me just show you. So you could do this, I'm pretty sure in Keynote. You could do this and you could create and use Paint to do this. The idea, so this is just using PowerPoint. So this was just a picture that I got off the web. And then I created this circle. So I created this circle inside of PowerPoint. Now the PowerPoint won't work for what I need, but what I can do is if I come up to my Save button, and I'm not going to save it just with the button. I'm going to go down to, and I'm going to do Save As. I am going to save it, let's see, here it is. This is Windows 7, so I think you might have to look at your thing. I could save it as a PowerPoint, but I'm going to save it as other formats. So when I click Save as Other Formats, it's going to bring that up, but look what happens. If I select this little drop down, here's the other formats. And my background needs to be JPEGs or PNG. JPEGs will work great now, so they need to be a JPEG. You could use your own background that you've created with the picture, whatever. So I'm going to save this as a JPEG. When I click, I'm going to hide the first one. So I'm just going to save it. And so now what it's done is inside of my folder, look, there's my PowerPoint, and there is my JPEG. So if I go to the properties and look, it's a JPEG. It's an image. That's a really easy way to use the PowerPoint and make it a JPEG. So I did that for this. I made a little background because thinking about Flurry Fun. So I thought it'd be kind of cute if I made a little fun background and the kids had to draw in Paint and create their own snowman faces. So I thought, oh, that's kind of fun. So there would be 4 kids and they would create their own snowman faces. I told you that I worked with the school district in, it was actually up in Wisconsin, and they were 4th and 5th grade students the teachers worked with. So here was an idea that I had. That's what I got the other idea. So this was Draw a Face That Matches. They were working on imprinting. So I have a bunch of pictures, and one of them was grumpy, one of them was happy, one of them was irritated. So the kids were drawing the picture of what they might look like if they were those emotions. So what would I do with that? I would take and let me go back because I just got a couple of minutes, and I'm going to go back to desktop, and I'm going to go back to that folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to open up my activity pack, and I want this to be a hot space. So there's my hot spaces. Click on it, and here it says, what do you want to do? I want to create my background. So this little clipboard right here, I'm going to paste the image. And notice all the white around here? I didn't fill up my screen in that PowerPoint. I'm going to use these little boxes to resize. Not resize, crop, sorry. I'm going to resize. And there's my background. I probably would have used added more circles, but the circles will then, I can take, and that can be my hot space. So I'm going to move this. Did you know that you could move these circles around? So I can't resize them, but I can move them. So that's as easy as it is to use something other than Notebook. If you use Notebook, Notebook has an option too. So here's that option that draw the emotion. I can go to File, Export, and I can export it as an image file. And it says, what do I want to do? And I can click OK. And now it'll export that file, and then I can do the same thing. So if I'm done with that, I'm going to save all, or save as, and I'm going to save it into that folder. If you haven't started your file management, you might want to. Let's call this practice, and I'll save. And now it's a .table. I think that's what it is, .table toolkit file. Karen, I'm going to reach out. Do you know what the extension is? You're still there. So I'm going to open really quick. We're at 5 o'clock, but I wanted to show you something. So this was Flurry Fun. I wanted to show you what I did with some ideas for this. I did this a couple of years ago. This was actually my first kind of practice or first try at creating with the toolkit. And so this one I did snowman counting and hot spaces, and I'll post this with the resources. I did, so you can see that I have the hot spaces, I have more snowmen, so this is, they're moving these around. This is a hot space activity, more snowmen, so it's a 1-to-1. I did addition, so how many scarves? So they have to move the blocks and count how many scarves, how many snowballs are there, so 1-to-1. Hot spaces, or hot spots, is the skip counting. And then when I did this a while back, we didn't have the application notebook to be able to use, so I just created this, was building a snowman. But now what I would probably do is do it inside of Notebook and open it up because I'd have more flexibility. But if I preview this really quick, you can see that my background was the building the snowman, and the kids can actually build a snowman. So notice that when I've talked about 360 degrees, 360 degrees is you know, it's one way. So that's why I would probably redo this and do it inside of Notebook. Plus, when you use objects, there's sometimes it's tricky to move things around, but you see I could build my snowman. So it's just an idea to use. So just that. And then the last thing I did, and I'll share this out on my website, the last one was a paint. I just did where the kids could paint their snowman. So snowman coloring fun, so they could draw the I would probably flip that around. But this I was showing someone because he said, what is that? And I had totally forgotten what that was. So Karen, so what's the file extension for Smart Table Smart Table Activity Packs? I can't remember. Oh, .table content. Thank you. Always excited when she joins these. So we are a little bit over, but hopefully I gave you some ideas to use for those third-party applications, how to use those backgrounds maybe in a different way. Don't forget, on my website this is my Smart Table YouTube channel, and it is linked on my website. When are we going to have our next session? It's going to be February 12th. It will be a Make It and Take It session, so I'm going to try to focus on some easy tips and tricks with our building. So it'll be a Make It and Take It, but we'll focus on some things that I talked about today. So with that being said, does anyone have any final questions before we finish? All right. Jessica, any final questions? Thanks for joining us. Diane, I'll get back with you. I saw your message. So I will get back with you and follow along, watch those the YouTube channel. I'm going to be over the holidays because I'll be done with class. I'm going to work on creating some updated, kind of some of the tips and tricks to help you as well. So thanks for joining. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you back. Keep practicing, and if you have any questions, don't forget you can email me at heatherlamb@smarttech.com. So let me put my email address back up there. Phone is good, but I'm not a lot of times at somewhere where I can reach my phone. So email's the best. If I can help you with anything, if you need any resources, please let me know, and I will be posting the stuff that I shared today as well as the video. So have a wonderful rest of the afternoon, great holiday season, and I will see you back in February.